So this video is going to be just going to get right into it, proving that evolution is real. Now, some people believe that evolution isn't real because they simply just don't understand it. But I'm going to explain to you why evolution is real and why it's not really just a theory. See, I've already explained this in a couple other videos, but this is just going to be the main focus of this video. But anyways, so evolution is, by definition, change, progress, something that happens over time, long period of time, mind you. But really, to argue with people, though, evolution can be more than just the definition. Like, you have like a living organism that changes over the years due to natural selection, time, progress, and pretty much motion. Motion as in, like, everything's always just interacting with something, therefore it changes in a different manner that you probably wouldn't realize. But anyways, the idea is this. If evolution wasn't true, everything would be the same. There would be no progress. There would be no, the word evolution wouldn't be used in a lot of sentences. Like, for example, he evolved differently to the point where he was smarter than he was yesterday, or something like that. Evolution is used quite often nowadays, and it has like different definitions, but it pretty much means like progress. He evolved. His Pokemon evolved. Or that'd be a different one, but that'd be another one that people use. But that's a game. It's not. But it would work in this case, though. But my point is, though, if evolution wasn't true, we wouldn't have like large gaps of similarities between like certain animals than what we have now. So, like, for example, look at the animal kingdom. Okay, in the animal kingdom, there's different groups, then there's subgroups, and then there's there's even more subgroups, to the point where science is very organized. As a matter of fact, I think scientists are more organized than doctors really are when they archive like all the patients' records and all that. But in science you really have to be. But in the world, but the reality is, when a new species of fish is discovered, for example, you go into the animal kingdom, you go into fish, you go into, or aqua life, whatever you want to call it, and then you go into first of all, you got to figure out what species of fish that is, and then like, for example, let's say it's like a new shark that's been discovered. Okay, then they have to look at all the different shark species that have been discovered. Is it a different type of shark? Is it a swordfish? Is it a hammerhead? Is it a great white? Is it a whale? Actually, no, I don't. Yeah, whales would be a different group. Manatees would be different. But the idea is that, if you have like okay, so like, for example, you got different types of fish, different types of similar species, but they're still different. But why is that, though? Because they have evolved differently. Take humans, for example. The most common argument that people use against evolution being the way it is that some people would say, well, if humans have evolved from apes, then why don't they look like apes? And my friend, that is a very good question, and I am here today to explain that. You see, over time, humans have evolved from different sorts of animals, like apes and cavemen, or even just just in general, like we are land creatures rather. And the idea is that maybe necessarily science doesn't have like every single extinctive species that humans have evolved from, or animal, like would be like question mark, but to human though. But the idea is that there is enough change. Like, for example, there would be scientists that will come up to you and say that we have 97% DNA, or last time I checked, 97% similar DNA to apes, and that but they're still different though. Why though? Well, we are our own species under mammals because it's an offspring. It's heredity. Heredity. Sorry, I don't understand why I can't pronounce that sometimes. But anyways, the idea is that we are similar, but we are different. And the reason why is because of natural selection, and natural selection being like, like for example, when you have sex with somebody and you reproduce, maybe you fall in love with somebody else. Not everybody's going to have sex with the same woman, and they're not going to call them their wife or husband, or maybe you're able to reproduce like all by yourself. Like we would call that asexually reproducing, Or let's take other living organisms like amoebas, and they can reproduce just by splitting in half, asexually, or even just I think worms can do the same thing. They can split in half somehow. Somehow they just split the nucleus, and if they just go just like that, something like that. But the idea is that everything evolves differently, and therefore we get different genetics. And the idea is that there's still a gap of sure, yeah, nobody knows everything because there's so many different extinct species that even existed, so it's kind of really hard to trace. But that would be the question, like, what have we evolved from? You'd be asking. But the idea is that we are different from other animals because our genetics are different. Therefore, our physical properties are different. And if you think about it, that's why evolution is real. Now, maybe people just haven't come to accept it yet. I personally think that's the reason why people haven't come to accept it yet. Fine, if people don't believe it now, maybe they will in time. I'll be honest, I didn't learn everything I did in one night. It was when I just came to that realization. And, maybe this, again, my purpose on this channel, I'm not here to insult people. I'm just here to enlighten people. Like Carl Sagan, for example, he spent his majority of his life trying to teach people that, you don't have to judge, you don't have to make fun of people. You can just bring everybody together and really learn a lot of new things. And personally, I think science is awesome. We look at all these things that people have learned over the years, and there's a lot of things that we haven't discovered yet, but at the same time, though, maybe there's that one individual who finds something that most people haven't, and, everybody looks at it and they say, that guy's right about that. And then we just start doing that because, this guy brought something to everybody else's attention that nobody else realized. So, for example, when we look at evolution, maybe the reason why people don't accept it is because they have yet to realize that, maybe everything is similar and different at the same time, and therefore we have this understanding of what really is science. And, everything's different. Not just evolution everything's alive, essentially. Sorry. And the idea is that you and I and everybody else come from the same place, but in a different aspect, though. Every human is similar, because we're still classified as a human. We're still mammals. I'm a mammal. I'm a human. But I'm my own person, though, because my own genetics. Family members, offsprings. It's just the reality we're faced with, So my genetics, if I was to have a child, would be my genetics, 23 chromosome, and, and the wife would have the 23rd, or sperm and an egg. 23, 23, 46. At least that's what I remember in heredity when we were taught that in biology. But the idea is that, or rather, just in science, rather. But the idea is that, everything is made of energy, everything is made of material. And I'll be honest, I know some people might laugh at this, but this is also kind of like, if you really think about it, even if you believe in creationism. Now, necessarily, I have my doubts about creationism, at least from the aspect that people talk about it as like their God existing. Because I'm an agnostic, I don't see reasons to believe that all the religions people worship now are real. But maybe there is a deity out there that created everything that the human race hasn't come in contact with yet. And I'm not here to say that for sure, because I don't know. But I will say this, though. If there was a deity that created everything, or more than one deity, let's just say, the idea of it would be that, they created the universe, but pushed it in a way that the universe went from there on its own, and then it just started evolving differently. And, then, when you look at, like what we are, for example, this is just our reality. This is what happened to us. We live on the planet Earth that evolved the way it did when it became what it did, and we look at who we are, because this is how we evolved over the years in the time period that we live in, and and that's just the reality of it. Everything changes because we live in that society. We that's what you call time and progress, and even the years. I'll give you another example. If hypothetically humans could live millions of years, or just to a long cluster of points in time that we could have a child, and then they could just have a child, pass it on for so they'd be your great. You get what I'm saying? You would notice that they'd probably change over the years because natural selection, and they probably would start changing physically because their genetics are starting to evolve differently. So in other words, humans would be different than so our ancestors are different than who we are, and then when we're ancestors to the many people in the future, that's how it would work. So change is really the primary proof that evolution is real, because Evolution means change. See, the way I look at it, and personally, this is the way I look at it, I think that people just have yet to accept it. Because if evolution isn't necessarily the way we state it is, then that just simply means that, you know, it would just be something completely different then. But the idea is that everything changes, though. I mean, it does. Because of that mentality, we are who we are because of that reason. And because of that, it's not just what we think it is. There's enough evidence to believe that the human race has evolved because our genetics are all different. And again, if you don't believe me, look at all the different entities. Look at all the different animals, species, and ask yourself, if we're all made of the same thing, why are we so different? Because we changed over time. And natural selection, time and progress, evolution is real. And if you don't believe that, then what do you call progress then?